Morning, everyone. Okay, welcome back to Logisticians Day 2. I think there are still some seats in front, so for those who are sitting at the back, feel free to join the rest in the tables in front. Oh. Okay, so I hope you had a good session yesterday. So we covered some topics about the digital transformation. We also did some of the sharing on the intra-logistics track, and then we also had a track on the digitalization. So today, this morning, we will continue on our next two agenda. So we have one track that is running here on cold chain. The other track on the other room is on the freight services. Okay. So without further ado, I will just start introducing our first speaker for this morning, Mona Lee. So Mona is a senior business process manager with Novogene AIT Genomics Singapore, a leading provider of genomic services and solutions. So in her current portfolio, she oversees the logistics and business operation team and manages the order-to-cash business process for Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Africa region. So with more than 20 years of experience in business excellence, operationalization, and lean framework, she has held positions in both local and regional capacities at global companies such as, I think, familiar names, Agilent, Thermo Fisher, and Novogene, working on various projects such as business consolidation, decentralization, business integration, system migration, and organization structure transformation. She is most passionate about providing exceptional customer experiences, improving organizational efficiency, and promoting continuous improvement. So she'll be doing a presentation on control towers in the pharma cold chain. Mona, please.
This one? Okay. Hello. Hi, good morning. Wow. Good morning. My name is Mona. I'm from Novogene. So what does Novogene does is that it is a service provider for genomic services and solutions. So majority of our customers are researchers, scientists. I was invited to to be a speaker today, and then I told Roger, I said, I'm no expert in logistics or cold chain or what is control tower, seriously. So I adjust the mic a little bit. Yeah. So I suggested to Beck that perhaps I can share about this topic from a client perspective. Why is it so important? So when I engage a lot of logistics services in cold chain, and a typical call of a day that I have with logistics, it is that I will ring up or send an email in and ask them that I have some biological samples that I wanted to ship from one country to another. And often I will get back a list of questions, says that, tell me what you are shipping, where you're going to ship it to, is this sensitive, temperature sensitive items, what's the Incoterms that you need, and what's the HS code? Then I look at that. Seriously, HS code? How does it matter to my shipment? And how do I know? Right. So, and of course, then what's going through my mind, and that's most important from a client, it is that, can I ship them? What is the regulations that's involved in shipping biological samples? What are some of the licenses and what are the permits that is required to the destination sites? And we as a client, we don't know much. And we rely a lot on the logistic provider to advise us. And of course, when we begin to inquire and along the way, we will learn what we have experienced, we will learn what we have shipped before, and we begin to think that, hey, we know it, okay, this is how to handle certain things. But no, right? We only know very little bit, and we rely a lot on your expertise to advise us. And the examples that I'm giving, it is that to tell everyone that we are not in your trade, and you are, right? Many of you in this room involved in providing logistic services are the expert to your clients. They're the expert to your clients. And therefore, your expertise is so important to us in advising what can be done, what it takes to get things done, and so on and so forth. And particularly in coaching, right? The items that we send means temperature sensitive. And the items that we send is as critical as the role that you played in the logistic chain. And what I'm saying it is that because every shipment that's inside the cartons carries a lot of customer stories. And what do I mean by the customer stories? Okay. In Novogene, we involve in genomic services. We carry items that's for researchers and scientists. They engage us on the services that we provide them, and then we send samples. And the samples carries every single project that we have inside carries a lot of customer stories. It can be a sample that is coming from an ill patient that is seeking a precision medicine or targeted therapy. It also can be a samples that is belong to a long-term research studies that the sample cannot be collected again, and it's very precious. And it also can be a new discovery that the researchers that's working on a rare science discovery as well. So the nightmare to a client, it is that knowing that this box of shipments that we hand over to a logistic provider on a trip, it is that knowing that the sample can only happen once and not again. And that's how precious it can be. So the challenge, from a client perspective, it is that how do I get the shipment moved? But more of the worries, the anxiety, and everything only comes when my shipment out the door, because it is on its journey to the destination. And anything can happen. And just like this morning, when I was looking at my GPS from my home to be here, the GPS told me that it's going to be 32 minutes. And when I'm on the road, it tells me that it's 50. I said, oh my God. I left home at 8, 32 minutes, I should get here before 45. But I didn't. So this is the challenge on transportation. You're calculating things that you can calculate, but there's a lot of variable that you cannot calculate. And that's amazing on all of you handling coaching shipments, right? So early this year, honestly, I'm not too sure what's going on. We booked regular shipment. We sent regular coaching shipment to a destination. And it is our regular daily, we ship a few times a week. So what happened was the news came. The flight wasn't very stable. So often we have shipment that get offload. Last minute we've been told that the flight been cancelled, even though the shipment says that, oh, the booking is confirmed. We will come pick up your shipment, right? Our provider will say that. After the shipment is picked up, and then they tell us that it is being offloaded. What's the reason? Later, maybe I can interact with some of you to find out how airlines works. And then the flight get cancelled. Very unstable. And this is the time we feel very unsafe. Very, very unsafe. And I've explained that the type of samples that we are shipping has a lot of value, right? Incalculable value in it. And my team, in times like this, they are very worried. Their typical time of the day will be wake up in the morning, immediately take a look at the flight that we've been scheduled on, whether it is still on schedule. And then next, it is that they will look up and say that whether the flight takes off. And the next thing, once the flight takes off, it is not the end yet. They hope that they will not receive a phone call from the forwarder and says that the flight took off but not your parcel. Yeah. So when it happened, it is a nightmare to us because the items that we are sending is with dry ice. The time is ticking, the dry ice is eliminating, we're left with nothing but anxiety. And all this, it is that we have forwarder that help us immediately look for the next alternative, the earliest flight to get on. And some forwarder will be able to provide a dry ice top-up services, but some may not. So it is really the choice of the forwarder that we are choosing, right? So, and with all this, even though we get booked on the next immediate flight or available flight, we get worried again because the cycle repeats. Would it get on? Would it be on schedule? Would it get cancelled again? And not until it reached the destination, then it says that, oh. However, our typical time of the day is not the end. After sending one shipment, we begin to worry about the next shipment because they send a few shipments a week. Yeah. So, sorry, I forgot to flip the slides. Yeah, so these are really the challenges. From a client perspective, a lot of unknowns, a lot of risks that we know that is along the way, not until from one point to another. It looks like it is a very short journey. From one destination to another, it can be just an hour flight. It can be a day flight. But the journey, every single bit of the details needed someone to help us to take care. And that's exactly what you guys are offering here. It is the control tower. Even the control towers kicks in, I think it is the planning part of it that you are helping us to take care of our worries. And it is amazing sometimes when we interact with some of the forwarder, they will even go all the way out to advise us that this time I will not book you on certain airlines and I will book you on the alternate airlines, even though it takes a little bit longer, it takes transits. But in their experience, they think that it is much safer than a direct flight because of the uncertainty that comes in. And they have this knowledge and you have these informations to help us, right, to avoid any possible delay. And that's all the way to the services that you're offering. It is starting from the planning stage. Yeah. And when things happen, this is when the intervention can happen, right? Some of the forwarder will be able to offer the dry ice top-up service. I'm just talking about dry ice shipments here. And some of And of course, most important, it is that you take steps and all the facilities that you have, take steps to prevent things from happening. And that's amazing when I often hear that from the forwarder telling us that I don't book on the A airline and then go on to a B airline instead. And they to me, it seems to have all the whole world of information that they have and required to help us to execute this particular shipment. And sometimes I even think that, wow, upcoming I have a family trips. I don't even do that. I just go online and see whatever come up first, and then I will just book on it. I don't even compare. I don't have the time. And when you're doing the services to so many customers, I will imagine that how many customers that you have in providing the service to, and you will be able to do to that extent of details. Yeah. So, well, you was telling me that, so control tower is actually very, very important. It's so important that what they are looking for, it is not just in time, but just in case, right? I was talking them that. But I wanted to share here to say that from a client perspective, we don't want just in case services. We don't want you to take care of the just in case. Because when do you look for just in case? It is when you buy insurance, right? You pay a premium, and hopefully you get compensated when just in case happened. But no, from a client, I don't want an insurance, I want assurance. Right? So, because the precious samples that we have, we cannot afford to buy insurance for it, because these samples are for research purpose only. They have zero value. And when things happen with the shipment, we get compensated based on the declared value, I think. And we get nothing, seriously. So that is from a client perspective. So when we look at it, it is, well, when we as a client look at it, it is the assurance that seeing the providers that not only do a pre-plan check and the shipment that is ready to take off, right? Then when they collect the shipment from us, and then watch the shipment through the journey from point A to point B, and every single detail that is taken care of. And that's exactly this kind of services that a client would be looking for too. And once there was someone asked me, hey, control tower, have you ever experienced these services that is offered from its provider? I said, I don't want to know if whether or not they executed that and how they watch over that, because probably they have been doing these particular services for us, but I don't know, I'm not aware of, and I don't aware of, because it is like you are in an operation theater running an operation, and to your loved one. And the doctor comes out and says that, oh, we had a near miss. How would you think? I don't want to know, right? So from a client perspective, really, we wish that logistic provider will be able to take care of your client shipment from point to point, having all the services and intelligence that you have to watch over in shipment and take it safe from point A to point B. And even though there was incidents that happened, if it is not major, if it is just minor, don't tell your client, because this is when the confidence gets shaken. Yeah. So thank you, and that's the end of my presentation. And I hope that my sharing adds value to the provider that you're providing a services to your client, and as well as we hope that the technologies, the digitalization in the world that continue to bring up the level of intelligence that you guys have in providing your jobs to your clients. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mona, for your presentation. We'll open the to the floor if there are any questions that you would like to ask Mona. Yeah.
Yep.
Hi, Mona. Thanks for your presentation.
Hi.
Anyway, I joined a bit late. Okay. I'm Anand from Zuli Pharma technology teams. So it's a nice presentation about control panel, how you are handling cold chain. You are talking about, you are giving the assurance. Can you show me some example how you are giving the assurance? Because still I am not clear. You are giving the presentation, but do you have any real how you are assured? Like, that means even though we have the tools or automation, but still we need the man to control it. Like, okay, we cannot make it everything automate. So how you are take caring? Do you have any automation? Or we have the tool, but manually we are monitoring. So how we are really doing that? Thanks.
Not really. I mean, this is a very good point to call out for everyone to think about, right? So there was once in another conference that I engaged with, I was talking to a service provider again. I said that in such a advanced technologies, and nowadays you go online, you go on ChatGPT, you should be able to get a lot of answers that you don't have, right? That you wanted to know. And I say that we often send shipment to many, many countries. For myself and my teams and the units actually take care of the Asia Pacific, a shipment to Asia Pacific, Middle East and Africa. Then, of course, there's a lot of countries that, in terms of the regulation and etc., that we don't know. And I once asked the question, is there any platform that, as a client, can go into, be able to have a click of a button and then ask a few questions, be able to help us to tell us that what is the import and export regulation to certain items that we can read about? Rather than today, we are still rely heavily on an email communications, right? Of someone's knowledge, relying on someone's knowledge to tell us what it is. And likewise for the shipment assurance. Just now I gave an example, it is that my team will have to constantly, just based on a flight booking, flight number, having to get online and do a search to make sure, just to watch over, to make sure that the flight is still on schedule and it takes off on time. And this is exactly the lack of transparency that, from a client perspective, is looking for. And of course, today, in the model that we are in, it is that we rely on information and update from a provider. If you don't call me, if you don't ring me, I think I will assume that it is as per usual. And the moment you ring me, I also not happy because I begin to worry. There must be something that unusual that's happening, therefore you're ringing me. So the assurance today, in today's context, I think the assurance is that how much relying on very much on how much the service provider is communicating with me and the updates. And in terms of updates, the appropriate level of updates. Communication today, in today's world, it is still very, very important. And we rely on information transfer. Not so much of the transparencies that we get it and be able to watch over a shipment. And of course, nowadays, we also have heard that there are, for example, temperature logger that has got a GPS built into it, and the provider can give you the GPS tracking, and therefore you'll be able to watch over your shipment, which point of the part of the world that your shipment is. It is. However, it does solve some of the questions that we have from a client perspective, from us, but it does not tell me why is it sitting in that country for that long, and what is it encountering. Yeah. So it is the information flow, I guess, that the world continue to develop and see how to bridge those gaps. Yeah. I hope I answered your question.
So it means it's all based on the data. So you can't say 100%, right?
Not currently, because it is always, the assurance is always associated to expectation.
Yeah. So as you said, that you are all driving with that data, but already you also specified we are not transparency, so we are not getting all the 100% data. So the assurance, we can't say 100%, correct? That's my question.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Let's keep the questions coming. We have a Mentimedia there. You can scan the code to input your questions. So I think leading on to the response, a question for you. Can you rely on your 3PL for accurate information?
Can you rely on your 3PL? I have to, right? And that's the only source that I have currently.
Next question. Since the information is not readily available or there's a lack of transparency, have you ever been fined or penalized for relying on information from a provider?
Not so much. I don't think we have gone that bad. Yeah. Not I personally experienced, not being penalized as per se. Perhaps I will just more of sharing with you when one thing goes wrong, how bad it can be. Maybe I can share that as an example. There was once we had a shipment that sent to a destination, and that's China. Okay, I'm not too sure. Some of you, how many on the floor here, and some of you as a client and not the service provider, and then whether you had experience in sending shipment into China. And often I always have a perception that if you can get through a shipment into China, you can send anything or any part of the world. So there was this one incident. It was merely to look at it, it is one little mistake that was made by a service provider by pasting an incorrect shipping label, or rather the airway bill label, cut wrongly, and reached the destination. So it was what we declared in the shipment does not match the shipment itself. So if your shipment get picked by China custom for inspection, and this is when you get into very deep trouble, and this is when you begin to find that you're in a very sticky situation. Your shipment has to be returned back to the shipper origin, or if not, will get disposed of. And then the return process takes 30 days. And imagine the items that you have inside the box has to wait for 30 days. It is no longer about the time loss that we are dealing with. It is the precious samples that we have inside, how much risk that the shipment actually suffers. Yeah. So I think if I go back to the earlier keyword assurance, it is more of the assurance that we wanted to see before it's being executed. Once it's executed, when mistake is taken place, it is the impact that involved is just far too great. Yeah.
Thank you. Next question. Do you also feel that sometimes you have too much information?
Not really. I am always, my team is here as well. I think we are always hungry for information. And that's exactly when I was talking about the transparency. How transparent should it be? I think that's the questions. Sometimes too transparent. Just now I say is that the control tower services tells you that, oh, your shipments is now running, dry ice is running low. It has no meaning telling me that my dry ice is running low. It has more meaning in telling me that, oh, your dry ice ran low, but we have already top up. Don't tell us the problem. I mean, we as a client, don't tell us the problem, give us the solution, right? And that's the kind of assurance that informations that we need. Yeah.
You brought up the word transparency. So the next question is also talking about transparency. So would the client be looking for transparency, as you said, that when a service provider does not provide a near miss or countermeasures to tackle the issues?
Would client be looking for transparency, as you said? When a service provider does not provide so-called near misinformation and countermeasure to tackle issue along. Sorry, I don't quite get this. So, so-called near miss does not provide. So, service provider does not provide so-called near misinformation or countermeasure. Yeah, I think somewhat my earlier example explains, right? So, yeah. You can share with me the near miss, but give us, along with it at the same time, give us a solutions that's been applied on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mona. So in the interest of time, I think there are some other questions, but you can feel free to catch up with Mona during the break. And then if you have some burning questions that you really want to check with her, again, feel free to do so. Thank you very much, Mona. Applause.
Thank you for having me.